Okay, so picture this. You're at your go-to burger place, about to bite into a juicy burger. But right as you're reaching for it, you hear there's a massive ground beef recall. And it turns out your burger might have some unwanted guests, E. coli bacteria. It's the kind of food safety nightmare we're diving into today, and believe me, it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really shows how even the most familiar foods can have these hidden risks. So we're going to break down what happened with this recall and, more importantly, what it means for you.
All right, so let's set the scene. It's November 2024. Wolverine Packing Co., a major meat packing company in Detroit, they issue a recall of over 167,000 pounds of ground beef. And we're not just talking about a few local grocery stores here. This beef went to restaurants all across the country.
And the reason behind this recall is a pretty nasty strain of E. coli, 0157.H7.
Now here's where the detective work starts. The first reports of E. coli cases weren't from people grilling at home. They were linked to restaurant meals in Minnesota. So the Minnesota Department of Agriculture got involved, and they traced the outbreak back to Wolverine Packing Co.
Yeah, that's a great example of how public health officials are always working behind the scenes to keep our food supply safe. It's a complex process, but without them, these outbreaks could become much larger.
It's pretty amazing how they can track these things back to the source. But back to the beef. The contaminated batches were all produced on October 22nd and had a use-by date of November 14th. I'm guessing you're giving us these dates for a reason.
Absolutely.
Okay.
While the contaminated beef mainly went to restaurants, there's always a chance some of it could have ended up somewhere else, like in someone's home freezer if they took home leftovers.
That's a good point. I'm definitely going to double-check my fridge after this.
Yeah.
So we've established that E. coli contamination is a serious problem. But I think it's time for a little E. coli 101. What exactly are we dealing with, and why is it so dangerous?
Well, E. coli 0157, H7 is a type of bacteria that can live in your intestines and cause some pretty unpleasant symptoms, like stomach cramps, bloody diarrhea, and dehydration. For most healthy adults, it's a few rough days, but you usually recover within a week. However, for young children, the elderly, and people with weakened immune systems, E. coli can be a lot more serious.
I've heard about something called hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS, which can happen after an E. coli infection. What exactly is that, and why is it so concerning?
HUS is a rare but life-threatening complication. Basically, E. coli releases toxins that can damage small blood vessels, especially in the kidneys. This damage can lead to kidney failure, and then you would need dialysis or even a kidney transplant.
Wow, I had no idea it could be that serious. That definitely puts things into perspective. So where does Wolverine Packing Co. fit into all of this? How are they responding to this outbreak?
Well, they've been cooperating with the FSIS investigation, which is a good sign. They're also doing their own internal audits to figure out how the contamination happened and how to prevent it from happening again.
That seems like the standard response. But is it enough? What are other companies doing to prevent E. coli outbreaks before they happen? Are there any new approaches out there that Wolverine Packing Co. should be looking at?
That's a great question. Some companies are using new technologies like blockchain to track their products from farm to table. Imagine being able to scan a package of ground beef and immediately see its entire journey, including every single step of the processing and distribution process.
Wait, that's a thing? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's becoming more and more real. Blockchain could totally change food safety by creating this transparent and tamper-proof record of every stage in the supply chain.
So if Wolverine Packing Co. had been using blockchain, would they have caught this contamination sooner?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it definitely could have given them more insight into their supply chain and potentially helped them find the source of the contamination faster.
This is fascinating. Okay, so we've got a major recall, a dangerous strain of E. coli, and a company trying to figure out what went wrong. But this Wolverine Packing Co. recall isn't an isolated event, right? Didn't we see a bunch of other E. coli outbreaks recently?
You're right. There was the Grimway Farms carrot recall and the problems with onions at McDonald's, all within a pretty short period of time. It makes you wonder if these are just isolated incidents or a sign of a bigger problem with our food system.
Okay, now I'm really starting to get concerned. It sounds like there's a much bigger story here about how complex and vulnerable our food supply chain really is. We can't just ignore these outbreaks and hope they go away. We need to seriously think about how we can make our food system safer and more resilient.
I completely agree. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to zoom out and look at the bigger picture of food safety. We'll explore the challenges of making sure food is safe in a global food system and discuss what can be done to protect ourselves and our families.
That's where we'll pick up next. We'll be back after a quick break to dive into the world of food safety. and see if we can find some solutions to this growing problem. Okay, so we've uncovered some pretty unsettling things about our food system. But before we all freak out and never eat again, let's talk about what we can do to protect ourselves. Because we gotta eat right.
For sure. And while there are some risks, there are also practical steps you can take to really reduce your chances of getting sick from E. coli. The good news is a lot of it is just common sense and good hygiene.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the tips.
First things first, cook that ground beef all the way through. We're talking 160 degrees Fahrenheit internally. No exceptions.
160 degrees, got it. But how can I be sure it's actually reached that temperature? Just looking at it seems kind of risky, even for someone who cooks a lot like me.
You're right, you can't just rely on what you see. A meat thermometer is going to be your best friend here. It takes out the guesswork and gives you peace of mind.
Meat thermometer, it's like a superpower for safe cooking. What else can we do besides cooking the meat thoroughly?
Preventing cross-contamination is super important. Think about it, you're preparing raw ground beef, which could have bacteria on it, and then you use that same cutting board or knife to chop veggies for a salad that you'll eat raw.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. The bacteria from that raw meat can easily get onto other foods. So always use different cutting boards and utensils for raw meat and everything else. And of course, wash those cutting boards and utensils really well with hot soapy water after you use them.
So it's all about having separate areas in the kitchen, raw meat over here, everything else over there, no mixing allowed.
Precisely. And speaking of cleanliness, let's not forget about hand washing. It seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people forget this simple step.
Hand washing, it's like the original defense against germs. But are we talking just a quick rinse or like a full 20-second scrub?
We're going for the full 20-second scrub with soap and warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you're washing before and after you handle raw meat. It's a small thing that can make a huge difference.
All right, so we've got our cooking temperatures down, we're preventing cross-contamination, and we're washing our hands like surgeons before surgery. What about storing ground beef? Any tips there?
Absolutely. Always put ground beef in the fridge or freezer as soon as possible after you buy it. And when you need to thaw it, do it in the fridge, not on the counter at room temperature.
No, thawing it out on a sunny windowsill. Got it. What about storage times? How long is ground beef good for in the fridge or freezer?
Fresh ground beef can stay in the fridge for 1 to 2 days, and frozen ground beef can last for a few months. But always double-check that use-by date on the package just to be safe.
Okay, so we've got our safety checklist. Cook to a 160, prevent cross-contamination, wash those hands, and store the ground beef properly. Seems pretty doable, right?
Food safety doesn't have to be super complicated. It's about being aware and taking those extra steps to keep yourself and your family safe.
I like that, empowered to make safe choices. Now, even with all these precautions, is there still a chance we could get sick from E. coli? Or can we finally relax and enjoy that burger?
Well, these steps definitely reduce the risk a lot. But it's important to remember that no system is perfect. Food safety is complicated, and sometimes things can slip through the cracks. That's why it's so important to stay informed about food recalls.
Ah, yes, recalls. They can feel like this endless stream of warnings. Contaminated spinach, recalled peanut butter, the list goes on and on. How can we stay on top of it all without losing our minds?
You're right, it can get overwhelming trying to keep track of every single recall. But luckily, there are good resources to help us stay in the know without being totally bombarded with information. The FSIS website is a great one. They have a whole section for recalls and alerts. You can even sign up for email notifications so you're always up to date.
That's super helpful. Instead of trying to memorize every single recall, we can just rely on trustworthy sources like the FSIS to do the hard work for us. So we've covered the recall E. coli and practical tips for staying safe in the kitchen. But I still have this feeling that this Wolverine Pack and Co. situation is just the beginning. Like it's a symptom of a much bigger issue.
You're onto something there. This recall and all the other recent E. coli outbreaks bring up some big questions about our entire food system.
I think it's time we zoom out and look at the bigger picture of food safety. Because this isn't just about ground beef, it's about figuring out how to ensure the safety of our whole food supply chain.
Exactly. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll get into the complexities of food safety on a global scale and explore some possible solutions to this growing challenge.
Okay, so let's talk big picture here. Multiple E. coli outbreaks in such a short time, it's hard to ignore, right?
Yeah, it is.
So is this just a coincidence, or are we seeing like a pattern here, something more systemic?
That's the question, isn't it? It's hard to say for sure if it's a trend, but it does raise some serious concerns about how vulnerable our modern food supply chain is. It's this complicated web, and that complexity can create weaknesses.
It makes you think like we're so used to just grabbing food from the store or ordering takeout without even thinking about it. But behind all that convenience is this huge network of farms, processing plants, distributors, trucks going all over the country. It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And with each step in that chain, there's a chance for something to go wrong. A mistake with hygiene at a processing plant, a change in temperature during shipping, even improper storage at a restaurant. Any of those things can lead to contamination.
So basically, as consumers, we're just trusting this system, hoping that every step has been handled perfectly. That's a little unsettling.
It is, and it shows why transparency and accountability are so important. We need systems that allow us to trace food back to its source. That way we can see exactly where problems happen and hold people accountable for maintaining those safety standards. It's about knowing where our food comes from and feeling confident about how it got to our plates.
That makes sense. But here's what I keep thinking about. How do we balance that need for safety with keeping food affordable and convenient, which is what we're all used to? It feels like we have to choose one or the other.
That's the challenge, isn't it? There's no easy answer. But I think a big part of the solution is giving consumers more information.
What do you mean by that? Like, what would that look like?
Imagine a system where you could scan a package of ground beef at the grocery store and instantly see its whole journey from the farm where the cow was raised to the processing plant and everything in between. Every step documented and easy to access.
Wow, that's amazing. It would be like having a food detective right in your pocket.
Yeah.
But is something like that even possible?
It's not as crazy as it sounds. We're already seeing technology like blockchain being used to track food. Blockchain creates this secure record of every transaction, making it almost impossible to tamper with.
Okay, so maybe in the future we'll be able to scan that package of ground beef and see exactly where it came from, how it was processed, even what temperature it was kept at the whole time. That's incredible.
Exactly. That kind of transparency could completely change food safety. Producers and processors would be much more likely to keep the highest standards, knowing that consumers can see everything they're doing.
That's a hopeful thought. This ground beef recall, as scary as it is, could actually lead to positive changes in the food industry. It's making us all think more about how our food gets to us and demand better systems.
I agree. It reminds us that food safety is an ongoing challenge. And we have to be proactive. We can't just sit back and expect someone else to take care of it. It's a shared responsibility.
Okay, so to wrap things up, if there's one thing you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive, what would it be?
Food safety is a team effort. Producers, processors, regulators, consumers, we all have a part to play by staying informed, taking precautions in our own kitchens, and speaking up for more transparency. We can all work towards a safer and healthier food system for everyone.
Well said. Food is such a fundamental part of our lives, something we all enjoy. It's definitely worth taking the time to understand how it gets to us and doing our part to keep it safe. So to our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe out there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.